Hey guys, welcome back to Beyond the Box Score and I'm your host Hayat. Today we're breaking down two NHL matchups on March 11th, Montreal Canadiens at Ottawa Senators and Washington Capitals at Philadelphia Flyers, and I'm walking through every angle the same way I do on camera. We're talking thinking out loud, working through the spots, the rest, the travel, the momentum, the matchups, the recent results, and how these games could realistically play out if the situations line up the way the numbers suggest. This is pure analysis and opinion, no guarantees, no promises, just how I see the slate shaping up. Also, I'm trying to hit 2K subscribers, so if you enjoy this kind of deep dive, raw, messy breakdown, that support would mean the world. Alright, let's get into it and start connecting the dots. Alright, first matchup I'm looking at is Montreal Canadiens at the Ottawa Senators, and the lean here is Ottawa Senators moneyline minus 150. Let me walk through why this spot kind of jumps out to me. When I start thinking through how the schedule and the momentum could collide here. So the first thing that immediately catches my attention is Montreal's situation because right now, at the time of recording this, Montreal is playing at home versus Toronto and they are actually favored minus 170 versus Toronto. Now that's interesting because I don't even know the result of that Toronto game yet. That's the weird part of the timing here, the result of the Toronto game is unknown at time of video. So I'm sitting here thinking through scenarios. If that Toronto game turns into a heavy emotional game, which it usually does, that matters. Because Montreal is playing at home versus Toronto and we all know that's a heated rivalry between Toronto and Montreal. Those games can drain you mentally, physically, emotionally, all of it. And Montreal is coming off a game Tuesday versus Toronto, so immediately I'm thinking about the turnaround and what that does to the energy level. Now flip the perspective and look at Ottawa's side of this. Ottawa comes into the game rested. That's huge in hockey when you're dealing with travel and fatigue. They're also coming off a 5-game road trip, which sometimes can go either direction. Sometimes teams stumble coming home, but sometimes that trip actually sharpens them up because they've been battling together for multiple games. And what stands out here is Ottawa didn't just survive that stretch, they actually won 3 straight games. That momentum matters. And look who those wins came against: Calgary, Seattle, and Vancouver. That's a nice run right there. And when a team strings together 3 straight wins during or around a road swing like a 5-game road trip, I start thinking about confidence and rhythm. One path I see here is Montreal coming out of that emotional Toronto game still feeling the effects, whether that Toronto result goes their way or not. If the rivalry game plays out intense, physical, draining, that leaves a door open for a rested Ottawa team that already has 3 straight wins over Calgary, Seattle, and Vancouver. And again, the rest factor favors Ottawa in this exact scheduling spot. That keeps pulling my attention back to the same number that's sitting there, Ottawa Senators moneyline minus 150 versus Montreal Canadiens. I keep circling back to the fact Montreal is favored minus 170 versus Toronto right now and that rivalry environment could leave them worn down. Meanwhile Ottawa is rested after a 5-game road trip and riding those 3 straight wins. When I connect those dots, yeah, the lean stays exactly where it started, Ottawa Senators moneyline minus 150. Quick pause guys, if you want to help push us to that 2K subscriber goal, hit subscribe too. It takes a second, but it honestly means the world and keeps me doing these full, messy, thinking out loud slates. Now the next game I'm looking at is Washington Capitals at the Philadelphia Flyers, and the lean here is Washington Capitals moneyline minus 115. Let me walk through how I'm thinking about this one because the matchup starts getting clearer the more I look at the numbers and recent results. Washington is sitting around minus 115 moneyline across the board here, and the first thing that jumps into my head is the road angle. Washington's road record is 1-2-1-5-4, so yeah, that's not dominant. When I see 1-2-1-5-4 away from home, I immediately ask myself whether that road inconsistency could open the door for Philadelphia. But then I start looking at what Philadelphia has actually been doing lately and the picture changes. The Flyers have lost 2 of their last 3 games. That stretch is important because their only win in that span was an overtime shootout win at Pittsburgh. So that means the only positive result recently needed extra time and a shootout to get there. That's not exactly momentum. Then I go back and watch the last game context and it jumps off the page. Philadelphia lost 6-2 versus Rangers. That's a 6-2 final score, and anytime I see a gap like that I immediately start asking what happened defensively and on special teams. And the numbers show it. The Flyers did generate offense in terms of activity because they had 34 shots in that last game versus Rangers, which tells me they were at least putting pucks toward the net. But 34 shots doesn't matter much if the other team is lighting you up the other direction. The real red flag is special teams, because the Flyers allowed 3 power play goals versus Rangers. That's massive. When a penalty kill is struggling lately and you allow 3 power play goals in one game, that tells me the structure is breaking down somewhere, either coverage, discipline, or execution. So now I start thinking through the possible game flow. If this matchup plays out like the Flyers' recent stretch where they've lost 2 of their last 3 games, and their only win in that span was an overtime shootout win at Pittsburgh, and they're coming off a 6-2 loss where they allowed 3 power play goals versus Rangers, that opens a window for Washington. Even with Washington's road record sitting at 1-2, 1-5-4. The matchup path becomes clearer if Philadelphia's penalty kill continues struggling lately. And when I connect all those pieces together, the Flyers losing 2 of their last 3 games, the 6-2 loss versus Rangers, the 34 shots that didn't translate into results, and the 3 power play goals allowed. I keep drifting back to the same side of this line. The number sitting there is Washington Capitals moneyline -115, and when I run through the possible game scripts in my head, yeah, the lean still lands exactly there, Washington Capitals moneyline -115. Alright, that wraps it up for our 2 NHL matchups on March 11th, Montreal Canadiens at Ottawa Senators and Washington Capitals at Philadelphia Flyers. As always, this was analysis and opinion only, nothing guaranteed, just me thinking out loud about how these games could play out if the situations line up the way they look on paper. I'm curious how you're seeing these spots, so drop a Z in the comments and let me know which game stood out to you or if you're seeing something differently. And don't forget, we're still pushing toward 2K subscribers. So if you want more of these raw, in-the-moment breakdowns, that subscribe button helps keep them coming. More deep dives like this are coming soon, same unfiltered format, same full analysis, just working through the numbers and scenarios with you.